we're jumping back into the world of bootlegs. Yes, if you watched my previous video about the Kong axe, you know that, I'll dip my toe into that pool every once in a while. But it's not all the time. Something really has to, catch my eye. And, a few years ago, something did catch my eye. And you're looking at it right there. This is MechaGodzilla, but not just any MechaGodzilla. It is a MechaGodzilla that never appeared in a proper Godzilla movie, and one that happened to be directed by none other than the great Steven Spielberg. Yes, we are talking about the Ready Player One MechaGodzilla. And some of you might be asking, hey, wait a minute, I don't remember a toy line for Ready Player One. And that is part of the appeal, charm, and mystery of this guy. So if you never saw Ready Player One, it's a fun film. It's a great Spielbergian style action adventure about the world of virtual reality, which was based on an even better book by Ernest Cline. If you've never read it, I would say give it a quick glance because it's a very fun read. It is riddled with pop culture references, homages, and most importantly, there's a lot of tokusatsu references in that bad boy too. Gundam, Voltron, and of course, Japanese Spider-Man. But most importantly, Godzilla. To an extent, MechaGodzilla more than anything else. At the end of the book, the climax battle, if you will, the villain uses a item that he has stashed in his virtual chest to pretty much create a MechaGodzilla in the virtual battlefield, of which our hero turns into Ultraman and does battle. But that doesn't happen in the movie. That battle takes place between Gundam and MechaGodzilla. But the fact that Spielberg himself went through the rigmarole of getting the rights to MechaGodzilla for him to even show up in his movie adaptation is a miracle in its own right. And mind you, this is well before Godzilla vs. Kong happened. So you might be wondering, hey, I don't remember a Ready Player One toy line. That's because there was none. So how the heck did this guy come into being? Well, that is an interesting question because no one really knows the correct answer. So this bad boy right here is from AliExpress. That is where he was sold. He popped up about 3 years ago. And this is one of the earliest versions that appeared online. Now, there have been other augmented versions that have come out since then that might include a slightly better sculpt and slightly better articulation. But at the time, AliExpress was known for just selling cheap knockoffs of, current toys that you like. Most of those were because, the companies that produce, the toys that you love in China would pretty much shut off at about 5 p.m. and then about 6 p.m. turn on and make their own versions of a slightly lesser quality to sell, for a cheaper price, kind of undercutting the market. But that's a whole different video for another day. The point is that molds existed of those said toys, which means all the hard work is done. When you make a toy, you have to sculpt it. You have to figure out the articulation. All of that goes into what the eventual price of the said figure would be. Hence why you see action figures in the last couple of years going up in price. Better sculpts, better articulations means more money to be charged for them because, there's tooling to be done. But no version of this guy was ever out there. He was never teased. He was never announced by anyone. So where did he come from? Well, a little sleuthing online and what people could pretty much put together. Now, mind you, none of this is official. But there was a rumor going around that NECA had acquired the license to do figures from Ready Player One. And you would think that is a grand slam. NECA, a pretty good company, they already make a lot of pop culture figures. And since Ready Player One is nothing but a amalgam of everything pop culture, from horror, sci-fi, video games, they already had a lot of those licenses ready to go. But that also meant maybe acquiring licenses to other characters. Now, in the between 2014 to like 2018, 2019, they had the license for Godzilla. So the rumor is that in doing Ready Player One, they technically acquired the license from Toho. Now, to be fair, they didn't have any of the other monsters. They had the MonsterVerse monsters, which was Mothra and Rodan, but they didn't have any of the other guys. So either they acquired the rights of this MechaGodzilla from Toho for the line, or they were in the process of acquiring it and the whole thing fell apart. Now, Ready Player One did solid business, but it didn't quite set the world on fire. It didn't turn into a merchandising magnet like some people had thought. And the rumor is that NECA might have put this guy together as a possible figure to be released in a line. The line collapsed, and thus, the figure went by the wayside. Now, NECA did put out a King Kong figure about a year or two afterwards that was based on the original Kong. Now, I don't know for a fact if that was part of that line, or if they just in general said, hey, we want to do a King Kong figure. Now, they have done other Universal monster figures, and Universal and Warner Brothers kind of have a little bit of say in the rights to King Kong. It's a very muddled, weird world. But the overall idea is that perhaps someone at NECA had made a sculpt, a mold was made, and before it could ever go into production, the line was killed. Now, if the mold was made, that means that, well, you can make a figure of it if you have the right materials. So the idea is that perhaps said mold made its way to the factory in China, and after the company was told we're not going through with this, that mold sat around for a little bit until someone, perhaps looking to make a little unscrupulous money, said, you know what, screw it, we're going to make our own. And this guy magically popped up. Now, as a figure, he does have a lot of the NECA aesthetics. Like, he is a very detailed sculpt, but it is still a bootleg, so it has a lot of janky issues, which, well, see for yourself. Now, he does have full articulation, but the problem is that, kind of like some other NECA figures, the joints are a little stiff and a little janky. Now, I've done the hairdryer method to this guy to try to loosen his hip joints right here, but they don't want to move, and I don't want to really screw with it in order and break this guy. But he does have a leg joint right here, and kind of a little bit at the ankle. So he can kind of stand, but you can't really get a great pose out of him. As you can see, he's kind of already collapsing on his own. But that said, though, for a bootleg, he's kind of well done. This is honestly one of the best bootlegs I have ever seen in my entire life, which does give some credit to the rumor that he might have been an abandoned NECA mold. So he comes with these two missiles on the back of his shoulders, like he does in the movie, that do come off. And as you can see here, they do have a very decent paint job on them. I'm not gonna lie, like it's I've seen worse on official figures. The jaw moves, the neck kind of moves. And I say kind of, as you can see, yeah, he's still a bootleg. He does have a waist joint right here, but it doesn't really do much. And on the back, the tail theoretically moves, but like I said, he's so stiff that you really can't get much done. The arms do move the best at the elbows, and the hands, as you can see, this is pretty much a flap joint. And yeah, overall, he's not bad for what I paid for him. Now, he does come with a fire effect. This, though, is probably the jankiest part of the entire thing. As you can see here, the fire effect is just a piece of molded plastic that looks like someone just took a candle and let it drip. It kind of fits into the mouth, like so. It just kind of sits there. As you can see, it really sets off the... Well, right, there you go. Now you get a full glamorous shot of this guy with all of his accessories. And yeah, the flame just kind of hangs in the mouth a little bit, but that gives you a good idea. He is exceptionally top heavy. The center of the body feels solid, which I have no idea how that is, but it is. Hence why he has a weird stance. Overall, it's cool if you're into the stuff and you are a completionist for having every version of MechaGodzilla that ever existed. But if you're an action figure aficionado, you might look at this as like, well, this is weird and it's kind of garbagey. I wouldn't blame you either way. But that said, it's kind of a fun figure. I doubt we'll ever see an official version of this guy in any form unless it's in a garage kit. But if you want a Ready Player One MechaGodzilla, he is all over eBay and he's all over AliExpress. I paid about $55-$60 for this thing. When it showed up in a box that looked like it had been ran over by a tractor trailer. So packaging, I guess, varies by whoever's going to produce it. But that said, this is another weird corner of collecting Kaiju collectibles. And there you have it. That is another edition of the Koffers. Remember, if you like what you see, we do have a show. It's called the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast. You can find us at thekaijukingdompodcast.com. And if you don't like downloading, you can always stream our show and our sister show, Common Kaisers, on your favorite podcast streamers like Stitcher, Apple, or wherever else you might find finer podcasts. We're also on social media. You can find us on X at the Kaiju Kingdom, Instagram at the Kaiju Kingdom, and Facebook.com/The Kaiju Kingdom Podcast. And that'll do it for this edition of the Koffers. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.